Dear colleagues, I would like to thank the organizing committee. In this presentation, I will discuss necrotizing pancreatitis, a condition where management has changed dramatically over the past four decades, driven by landmark trials. As we know, approximately 20% of patients with acute pancreatitis develop pancreatic and peripancreatic necrosis. The disease has a biphasic course. In the first 2 weeks, the dominant threat is cytokine storm and systematic inflammatory response. After 2 weeks, the late phase begins and characterized by local complications and infected necrosis. The revised Atlanta classification introduced two important entities. Acute necrotic collection and walled-off necrosis. Acute necrotic collection occurs in the first 4 weeks. These collections lack a mature wall and contain both fluid and solid debris. In contrast, walled-off necrosis develops after approximately 4 weeks and is surrounded by a well-defined inflammatory capsule. As I mentioned earlier, the management of acute necrotic pancreatitis has undergone several major paradigms over the past 4 decades. I will share the remarkable evaluation of the treatment strategies that I have personally witnessed from my early years as a medical student to the present day. In 1985, Hans Beger published his landmark results advocating early open surgical intervention for all patients with pancreatic necrosis identified on CT, regardless of whether the necrosis was infected or sterile. His technique, open necrosectomy followed by closed continuous lavage with 8 liters of saline per day, achieved a mortality rate only 8.5%, an impressive result for that era. This approach became the standard of the care and dominated the clinical practice for nearly a decade. At my medical faculty, we also adopted this strategy. However, in our own experience, mortality rates remained high. Bradley and Allen in 1991, who demonstrated that patients with sterile necrosis could recover without surgery, even in the presence of organ failure. This concept was rapidly embraced, and by the early 2000s, several large studies had confirmed that non-operative management of sterile AMP was associated with lower morbidity and mortality than surgical intervention. A new paradigm emerged: observe sterile necrosis, operate on infected necrosis. In 2005, Ranzi and colleagues demonstrated that even in the presence of infection, 60% of patients with acute necrosis and pancreatitis could be successfully treated without surgery using antibiotic and intensive supportive care alone. Moreover, the reported mortality rate was only 12.5% compared with the 20 to 50% mortality rates commonly reported in contemporary surgical series. These findings challenged the prevailing paradigm that infected necrosis equals surgery. In 2010, Garg and colleagues further validation this approach. A new paradigm emerged: do not operate immediately on infected necrosis, start with antibiotics and reserve surgery for the patients who fails conservative treatment. Timing is one of the most critical variable in AMP surgery. Myers' prospective study showed early necrostectomy carries 58% mortality versus 27% 7% for delayed surgery. Besseling's data were even more striking. Mortality 75% for surgery in the first 14 days, falling to 8% when delayed beyond 30 days. Hartwig confirms similar findings with laparotomy. The practical message is clear. Avoid surgery in the first 2 weeks whenever possible. When clinically feasible, delay all interventions beyond 30 days to allow necrosis to wall off. Once the indication of intervention in infected AMP has been established, the next challenge is choosing the optimal techniques of intervention for the individual patient. The PANTHER trial is landmark. It was the first randomized control trial to compare primary open necrosectomy versus a step-up approach. Percutaneous drainage first, with surgical necrosectomy only. If drainage failed, surgery was avoided altogether in 35 patients of step-up group. Major complications, new onset diabetes and organ failure were significantly less frequent in the step-up group. However, mortality rates were similar between the two groups. The PANTHER trial essentially ended the era of primary open necrosectomy as a default approach for infected acute necrosis and pancreatitis. Another important study was published by Neoptolemus and colleagues in 1910. In this study, the authors showed that minimally invasive retroperitoneal necrosectomy was superior to open surgery. Overall complications 55 versus 83%. Mortality 19% versus 38%. These results solidified minimally invasive approach as the preferred surgical route when surgery is needed. The next major step came in 2012 with the Penguin trial, published by Dutch Pancreatitis Study Group. Despite its small sample size, it was the first RCT trial to directly compare endoscopic and surgical necrosectomy. The findings strongly favored the endoscopic approach. No new organ failure in the endoscopy group versus 50% in surgical group. Major complications reduced from 80% to 20% and mortality from 40% to 10%. This impressive result paved the way for the widespread adaptation of endoscopic step-up strategies. Another landmark study was the TENSION trial, published by the Dutch group, comparing endoscopic versus surgical step-up. Endoscopic step-up did not prove superior regarding major complications and mortality, but it was associated with significantly shorter hospitalization and a much lower pancreatic fistula rate. The trial tells us that both approaches are valid, but endoscopic step-up should be preferred when technically feasible. The Miser trial from Florida compared endoscopic step-up using Lumene approximating metal stents versus laparoscopic cystogastroscopy and video-assisted retroperitoneal debridement. Endoscopic step-up approach is superior to minimally invasive surgery in terms of major complications, length of hospital stay, healthcare cost, and quality of life. However, mortality rates are similar between the two approaches. This trial reinforces endoscopy as the preferred first-line approach with suitable anatomy. The POINTER trial, again from Dutch group, addressed a practical question. Should we drain infected acute necrosis and pancreatitis immediately or antibiotic first and wait? Immediate drainage led to significantly more interventions. Strikingly, 39% of patients in the postponed group never needed any drainage at all and were successfully treated with antibiotics alone. Mortality was similar. The clinical message is clear. Avoid routine early drainage. Start with antibiotics, monitor the patient closely, and proceed with drainage only if there is no clinical improvement or clinical worsening. 2021 meta-analysis by Ritchie et al. Published Annals of Surgery identified endoscopic step-up therapy as the most effective treatment strategy of infected acute necrotizing pancreatitis. This slide summarizes our current management strategy for acute necrotizing pancreatitis. The management of these patients should ideally be undertaken in multidisciplinary collaboration. In general, the management can be summarized by the principle of 3Ds: delay, drainage, and debridement. Once the diagnosis has been established, the cornerstone of treatment during the first 2 weeks is intensive supportive care. During these periods, patients should be kept away from surgery and necrosectomy whenever possible. The next critical question is: necrosis is infected. If infection is suspected or confirmed, antibiotic therapy should be initiated, and every effort should be made to delay intervention until the necrotic collection becomes encapsulated as walled off necrosis. If sepsis persists despite antibiotic treatment during the early phase, percutaneous catheter drainage may be required for source control. After approximately 4 weeks, if intervention is still necessary, the preferred strategy is endoscopic step-up approach. If endoscopic treatment is unsuccessful or technically not feasible, a stepwise escalation strategies should be followed. This may include percutaneous catheter drainage, followed by minimal invasive surgical techniques like video-assisted or minimal invasive retroperitoneal necrosectomy when required. In more advanced cases, laparoscopic necrosectomy may be considered, while open necrosectomy should be reserved as a final option for careful selected patients. If the necrosis is sterile, patients should be managed conservatively with close observation. In asymptomatic patients, no intervention is indicated regardless of the size of necrotic collection. However, in symptomatic patients presenting with pain, intestinal or biliary obstruction, or the persistent unwellness, intervention may be necessary. In these cases, the collection should be allowed to mature for at least 6 to 8 weeks whenever possible, followed by endoscopic drainage as the preferred treatment. Finally, patients who develop major complications of acute necrotizing pancreatitis, such as gastrointestinal perforation or major vascular hemorrhage, they may require emergency laparotomy and definitive surgical therapy. Before I finish, I'd like to present a representative case of biliary infected acute necrotizing pancreatitis, demonstrating how we applied the step-up approach in daily clinical practice. A 69-year-old man presented with acute biliary pancreatitis. Initial laboratory and imaging studies confirmed the diagnosis. By day 3, CT showed extensive necrosis involving the pancreatic body, and MRCP demonstrated dilated common bile duct and small stone in the distal common bile duct. Due to persistent jaundice, ERCP with sphincterotomy and biliary sludge extraction was performed, leading to rapid resolution of biliary obstruction. During the second week, the patient developed fever and elevated inflammatory markers, and repeat CT confirmed infected pancreatic necrosis. You see the big acute necrotic collection and the gaze in the collection. This is infected acute necrotic collection. In this patient, intravenous antibiotics were started while invasive intervention was delayed for step-up approach. Despite antibiotic therapy, the patient developed recurrent signs of infection during the third week, and the step-up approach was initiated, and percutaneous catheter drainage was selected as the first-line intervention. Although the patient initially improved, the infection recurred in the fourth week. The second step-up treatment was performed with endoscopic ultrasound-guided cystogastroscopy using a self-expandable metal stent, followed by endoscopic necrosectomy session over the subsequent days until complete debridement was achieved. This SEMS was removed first, followed by removal of percutaneous drainage catheter after complete resolution of the collection. The patient recovered without requiring surgical management. In this video, you see the endoscopic and fluoroscopic guided cystogastrostomy access to necrotic collection, wall of necrosis, and then we insert the self-expandable metal stent, and then change the endoscope, routine gastroscope, therapeutic gastroscope, extraction of necrotic debris, additional to intervention. We performed this patient. In the last intervention, we grasped the big piece of pancreatic necrosis and then take it out. You see the grasping the big, huge pancreatic necrosis and then take it out. You see the pancreatic necrotic tissue unblock excision with the endoscopy. Rahmat, teşekkürler. Thank you.